Hello, everyone. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great show today. You know, everyone that watches the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series, we always talk about specialization. We always talk about how specialists win and generalists lose. And today's show is a perfect example of what we always talk about because we've invited two experts in marketing on the show. They're actually experts in medical marketing. And the name of their company is Medical Marketing Whiz. And they have such a great experience doing marketing for people in the medical profession. That's what they specialize in. And it's really remarkable what they've been able to do for so many of their clients. We're going to get into it in a minute, but we've invited Lori Werner. She's the co-founder and the chief marketing whiz at Medical Marketing Whiz. And of course, Glenn Akins, who is also the co-founder and chief operations whiz. And together they make up sort of this 1-2 dynamic duel for the company. They're doing such great work for physicians and medical practitioners all throughout the country. So Lori, let's start with you. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Sure. That was a really exciting introduction. I'm impressed.
I love it. And you have such a great, energy about you. You have such a great vibe about you, Lori. Before we get started with Glenn, Lori, let's start with you. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet and tell us what Medical Marketing Whiz is all about.
Okay, awesome. So as you mentioned, we are niched in the medical space, and even further within the medical space, we've really focused on women's health providers as well as doctors offering things like hormone therapy. So we do get a little bit into like some functional medicine physicians, and then a handful of doctors that also do some aesthetics, but we're very, very focused on that women's health niche. And we kind of serve as an outsourced chief marketing officer for our clients. So a lot of private practice physicians, they're trying to remain independent. And so they're competing against these big hospital systems with deep pockets when it comes to their marketing. But in the women's health space, they're not at the point where they're going to necessarily hire an in-house person that's only doing marketing for their practice. And so where we really found value is kind of serving as that outsourced chief marketing officer, where they still feel like we're part of their team. We understand their practice, and we're able to deliver things that they need, such as active social media strategy, email marketing, reputation management, helping them be found on Google. And then we also are really focused on patient education in terms of doing seminars and webinars, so that at the end of the day, we want them to be seen as that local expert, and we want people to get to know them. So that's really what we focus on. We have a lot of fun doing it. We love the type of clients that we work with. And at the end of the day, you got to like what you do, and you got to like who you do it with. And so that niche has really worked out well for us.
I love it, Lori. It makes all the sense in the world. I call you two the Whizmeisters of Medical Marketing Whiz. I mean, you're doing such great work. And like you mentioned, and it's so important for the entrepreneurs watching the show, that you become an extension of the practice. You become actually a partner within the business, because the people who are your clients, they know all the medical things. They went to medical school and they've gone to, get certifications, and they know that part of their business, but they don't really know the marketing part, nor should they know that, because they're focusing on women's health and helping people with their healthy lifestyles and fixing people and doing great things for their clients. So they bring you on to be an extension of their business to do the marketing. It's really a great idea. Now, Glenn, I can tell, just by Lori's enthusiasm, how many people must gravitate to the Medical Marketing Whiz, Whiz team. But I know you're the operations man over there. So Glenn, what's it like when you have so many clients coming in? They've heard about your story. It's all over social. People are talking about within the industry that Medical Marketing Whiz is a great team to work with. Glenn, what's the onboarding process look like for someone that wants to engage with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our client onboarding process is really it's not a cookie cutter program. That's the first and foremost thing. We really evaluate and take the time to understand and get to know our clients in order to start them meet them where they're at. So we can get them started and rolling in the right direction. And that varies. I mean, we see clients who have, example, like an email list of 10,000 patients, and they're actively reaching out to those patients. And then we have clients who come on board and they've heard of email marketing, but it's just something they do as part of their check-in process, and they don't really nurture any of their, patients through that. So when we're onboarding and bringing a new client on, we really focus on understanding what their needs are, understanding where they are, the history of their marketing, interacting and really integrating with their team is what our goal is, so that number one, the communication is there. Number two, they feel like we are a resource that they can't live without. And that's really our goal, is to be able to provide so much value and help them achieve their goals in both, business or social media, whatever their primary goals are, in order to, help them become the best known expert for whatever their services are that they're providing in their local area.
I love it, Glenn. You do such a great job. The testimonials that, are on your website, the people are just raving about what you do. Now, Lori, let me bounce back to you just for a second, because something that I find very interesting about your company is you guys really believe in measuring, tweaking, and refining. In other words, you do some work with your client, you sort of look at it, you analyze the data, and then you sort of tweak it up so that it, it gets refined to the best possible outcome. So where did that come from, Lori? What's that approach, and where did that approach of measuring, tweaking, and refining come from?
So you don't know this about me, but I'm actually a recovering engineer. So my undergrad is in mechanical engineering. So as much as I'm very excited and outgoing, I actually am also very, very analytical. And thankfully, Glenn is too. So Glenn is the guy that does a lot of our operations and measures the results for our clients. But I think the main thing is you have to set small goals for people. So these doctors, you mentioned early on in your introduction, these doctors are amazing medical providers, and in a lot of cases, novice business owners. They've never had to look at their business and measure their marketing. They don't know what to measure. Quite honestly, there's a lot of companies out there that I think make them, they put together a fancy report, but it doesn't actually even equate into patients. So we set goals for our clients usually by the quarter, and we really want them to look at their marketing strategy over the course of a year. So as Glenn mentioned, somebody that starts with no social media following, or very small one, maybe with not a lot of engagement, or a small email list, their measure of success is going to look different. Or somebody that doesn't have a lot of Google reviews to start, their measure of success might just be 10 new Google reviews in their first month. So that's really why it's important in the onboarding process. We know where they start. And this is even true for maybe entrepreneurs that are watching this and they're thinking, like, how does this apply to my business? Like, you've got to know where you're starting from. And then you want to measure your results based on that. And your results might be more social media followers. It might be new people on your email list. It might be new Google reviews. But at the end of the day, in our case, it's about patients. It's about new procedures or new people that walk in the door. And so our system is set up that we can measure all of that. And our team, typically what we do is at the end of every month, we look and we grade ourselves. Did we move the needle on emails, new emails on their list? Did we move the needle on social media? And not to say every month, every needle is going to move, right? It's not. But you have to be tracking that stuff. And regardless of who they're using for marketing, whether it's us or somebody else, they need to be looking at those individual metrics and make sure they're moving in the right process or the right direction. And if they're not, okay, now what are we going to do next month to change that? So that, unfortunately, I think a lot of times it's like feel good marketing. It might make you feel good because you've got a lot of Instagram followers. In my opinion, I don't care if you have 10,000 Instagram followers. If 9,999 of them are not in your local area, they're never going to become a patient. That to me, it's like, you got to think about what's actually going to make someone pick up that phone or go online and actually make an appointment. And those are the metrics that you need to be measuring.
I love that so much. And that's spoken, of course, like a true engineer. I would imagine back when you did engineering and you walked into the room with all the engineers, I'm sure that you brought a lot of energy and a lot of pep into that room. So congratulations. I know you've got many years of experience in taking all of that analytical sort of intelligence and putting it into marketing. I know that your clients really love that, and they really need that in their business. And like you mentioned, it's such a great process. You put one foot in front of the other at Medical Marketing Whiz. You and Glenn do such a great job, and it's just great to hear. And for the entrepreneurs watching the show, rewind what Lori just said, because that's very important and could definitely offer some improvement to your business as well with regard to the type of advice that she's giving in the interview. Now, Glenn, let's talk to you just for a minute, because one thing that drives me crazy, you go on a website, you go on social, you reach out to somebody, but they don't get back to you. How do you deal with doctors or these, clinics that you're working with where you do all the great work? Maybe the website looks great. Maybe you're driving people to the website. Maybe there's a lead capture, or you're driving people to a phone call, but those people don't get a call back. Does that ever happen? And how do you fix that?
Wait a minute. Are you saying we don't call people back, or are you saying...
No.
No, I'm just joking. Here's the thing. We only want to work with people who want to work with us. The way we approach this is we give value. We give value and more value. If you look at our website, you'll see it's full of content where we're giving information away. We're not afraid to, do a webinar on all the different topics. In fact, I don't know if I should say this or not, Lori, so don't be mad at me, but if somebody wanted to run their own medical practice and learn everything that we do, they could watch everything on our website and they could do it themselves, right? It's just a matter of we are the implementers of all of that information. We are our team. We're the ones that keep on top of all that we're the expert for the practice, and we make sure that those things are happening. But yeah, I would say my advice to entrepreneurs out there is to just give away value. Give as much value as you can, and you will grow, because you're going to attract people. People will, refer other clients to you. And as long as you're positioning yourself and you have the heart of being somebody to bring value to the table, then you'll definitely have success with that.
So can I chime in here for a second? Can I just add something to that? So I think your question was, what do you suggest for doctors that are marketing and a patient requests an appointment or something and no one gets back to them? Was that what you were asking?
Okay.
So,
okay.
So with that, and that's true for us too, right? As business owners, you have to have automation in place. Like it is, if somebody opts into an ebook, they better get that sent to them within 5 minutes of opting in, whether it's a marketing ebook or a marketing webinar that they're watching, or an ebook that we provide for our doctors to attract patients, or a webinar we have doctors do to reach out to patients. Is that you have to have automation, because these offices, most of the time, and this is true for any business owner, you're wearing 10 hats. You don't have the time to, oh gosh, a lead came in, I got a ping that, somebody wants to talk to me and I'm just going to drop everything and pick up the phone. It doesn't happen. And so unfortunately, in this like quick demand world, you have to be able to get back to them. So building out things like sales funnels, and there's tons of different tools that you can use to do this. But if you have a lead capture, you want to make sure that that automation is in place to, send them the webinar or send them the ebook. And then how we take it a step further with our clients is, let's say we're running a campaign and somebody opts in, and we based on what action that person takes. So let's say they watch the doctor's webinar and they don't book an appointment yet. Our system will send that patient the webinar replay. We'll send them a link where they can book an appointment. Maybe it sends them some testimonials, some frequently asked questions, and they go through an automated 10-day nurture sequence to ultimately get them to book appointments. And then getting back to the data, we know for our clients, every person that downloads their ebook, every person that opts into their webinar, every person that requests an appointment and is still waiting, to confirm that time. So that's where that automation. And then now the staff is like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that I don't have to do it the old way where it's like, oh, somebody gives me a Google sheet and they want me to just make phone calls and nobody's interested. The system is in place to nurture those people automatically.
I love it, Lori. It's so smart and it's such a great way to go. I mean, this automatic sort of nurturing system. Someone once said to me that the fortune is in the follow-up. And one thing that you guys do so well at the Medical Marketing Whiz is, you and Glenn have put a process in place that almost becomes automatic for your clients. And they love that so much because they're busy making people healthy. The last thing they want to worry about is whether, an email drip campaign went out or whether, or trying to find out if somebody opened up a link to go to a webinar. You do all of that for them. You report back to your clients. And this is the way in which you're able to help your clients build their practices. And that's what you become known for. You're really a practice builder, and it's really awesome. Now, Lori, let me stay with you just for a minute because you have so many people calling you. And I want to know, what's the big problem? What's the big thing that whether it's, the sole practitioner or the person that's in charge of the medical group or, whether it's the physician themselves or someone within the organization, they call you, they say, Lori and Glenn, we've got this big problem. We need help with this thing. What's the thing that most of these companies call you about that they need help with?
Yeah. So as we mentioned, we focus mostly on women's health providers. So when we get a call or an email, most of the time, these doctors are trying to get out of delivering babies. And so they've purchased some type of equipment and or went to some kind of specialized training for them to do this new procedure or treatment in their office that patients, it's not covered by insurance. So I'll just give you an example. We have a lot of doctors that are doing intimate wellness. And so they buy a laser or a radio frequency device for $100,000. And they make it seem like when they buy it, Doc, if you buy this, you're just going to have so many patients come to your office. And the doctor gets so caught up in the emotion and the excitement of buying this new piece of equipment because they're thinking in their head, I don't want to be delivering babies all night long. I'd much rather be in my office just doing these treatments that I'm passionate about. But then the bills come. And then they realize they're not salespeople. It's hard to get patients to decide to pay cash for something out of pocket. And so they end up doing one of two things. Either they panic and they just let the machine collect dust, or they try to do it themselves because they're trying to save money. So they tell the gal at the front desk who's really good at doing selfies on Instagram, they think that now she becomes a medical marketing social media expert, and we're going to have her start promoting this new intimate wellness treatment that they are offering at their practice. And they quickly realize the phone isn't ringing. And so a lot of times it's like we've tried everything or we think we're doing everything. And so one thing that Glenn kind of mentioned this earlier that has really helped us is we do free webinars. In fact, I have one today at 3:00, free webinars every other week on Zoom where we'll teach doctors, hey, this is the strategy to actually get patients for this. And we go through it. And so by the time they've called us, they know we know what we're talking about. And it just makes that okay, I'm ready. I'm sick of trying this on my own. It's not working. I realize I need some help and you guys are the experts and let's talk. And so it does make it a little easier for us because they've got some knowledge of what we do versus just going to our website. And then the funny thing is I always tell doctors, I had a call earlier today. I said this to them. They're like, yeah, well, we booked the call with you. And I said, see, that's what we do for your patients. Exactly the process you went through with me, watching my webinar, checking out my Google reviews, following us on social media for a month or two, resulted in you getting on a Zoom call with me to talk about your marketing. And guess what? That's the exact thing that we do for your patients. But that's why you've got to have that multifaceted approach too. That's the other thing I think a lot of people will think, well, I got Jenny at the front desk posting on Instagram. That's my marketing. It's like, no, that's not the whole thing. You've got to get people to see things multiple times and interact with your business, 7 hours of contact with your business before they're actually going to make an appointment. I think healthcare, it's even harder because people are kind of married to their doctor. Like it's not like trying a new restaurant where it's like, oh, this is new, let's try this out. Like if you've been going to your doctor for 20 years, it's going to take a lot to get you to decide to switch to somebody else. So it's kind of fun when we do these calls because it's like the light bulb goes off like, oh, wow. Like I had no idea my business was categorized wrong on Google. Like, hey, and guess what? It's free to fix that. Let us show you how to do it. And so it's those type of doctors, I think, where it's like, they're just busy seeing patients. They feel like they're marketing, and most of them now want to get patients for some new treatment, and they've invested in some kind of maybe training or technology. And now it's like, the phone's not ringing. We need to do something here. So,
right. And I think one other thing that's important too, is a lot of times we'll take these phone calls, and on that initial conversation, we hear, I need to get new patients. I got a new device. I need new patients. And we have to repaint the, vision and create the vision for them that, listen, your patients, your existing patients, that's where you need to start. You don't need new patients. You just need patients for this new procedure. It doesn't mean you need new patients. And you have to start with those who already know, like, and trust you. Yep. I mean, that's what a lot of times, we have to bring to the table or bring into the conversation is, what about the other 20,000 patients you've seen over the last 5-10 years? Yeah. What are they, do they know about this? How are you reaching out to them? And it's like,
phase 1 is like your own patients. And then phase 2 is the new people, but they just want to jump to phase 2.
Right.
I love it. It makes all the sense in the world. I mean, you guys are really like the yin and yang of medical marketing whizness. I mean, I love it so much. Now, when we think about it, Lori, it's so interesting because, you give away so much information. You give away so many seminars and so many webinars, and you really are bringing people inside what they need to do. And I think that conversation that you have with the physician or the doctor or the medical practitioner, Lori, where you say, listen, the same process that brought you to me and that why we're talking today is exactly why you need us, because we're going to put something like that process in place for you and your practice. So you're really sort of talking the talk and walking the walk. I love it so much. And that's why you become really, really the go-to company for this type of a thing for, women's practitioners and, women's procedures, I guess you would call it. And part of my naivety and my discussion in terms of using more of a street word versus maybe a more professional word that you've used, but really it's female doctors, women medical centers that are providing amazing services for women. And that's just really awesome. Now, Glenn, I want to get back to you. I want to talk about entrepreneurship, okay? Because we have younger entrepreneurs watching the show. And sometimes they hit a roadblock, and sometimes they hit a pothole, and sometimes they can't get over that wall. They freeze in the frame. But you've been doing this for a while now with Lori. And of course, you've got so many years of experience in what you do. Maybe you could give some advice to the younger entrepreneurs, Glenn, watching the show on what it takes to get through those tough times, because we all have them as entrepreneurs. So maybe you could give a little advice here getting toward the end of the show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And being an entrepreneur, it's not easy. We all know that. Okay. If it was, everybody would be doing it. But when it comes down to it, people who have success, it's like 1% of all the population. And so when you look at that, what does it take? I think a lot of what it takes is just energy and discipline. Getting knocked down and being okay with that, and not looking at it as, oh, I just got knocked down, poor me, but getting knocked down and saying, okay, what did I just learn? How do I need to approach this differently? How do I need to market myself differently? What niche am I reaching out to? And that's really, when you look at it, it's one of those things. What are you passionate about? I've always had a passion for helping people. And my undergrad as an athletic trainer, and then I helped launch a medical practice, a functional medicine practice. And so when you look at, what is it that you ultimately are doing, I'm interested in helping people. Now it's helping doctors help more people. So our clients, the more we can do for them, the better off, they're going to be able to help more patients. But yeah, I mean, entrepreneurship, it's not easy, but I do believe if somebody has the drive and just a little wherewithal to experiment and be okay with going out on their own, then making that transition is easier. And that's another thing I would also say is don't quit your job today and jump into something entrepreneur wise. Just take it slow, have that transition period where you're doing this, your normal job that you want to get out of, but keep that and have this as, a side hustle. But then eventually both Lori and I did this. We're walking and talking proof of how we co-founded and, started Medical Marketing Whiz is the fact that we both had other jobs. And as Lori started and got more clients and got the ball rolling, she was able to transition out of her other job. And that was the same thing that I did with, transitioning slowly. It's not like you have to make the jump without having some kind of a safety net below you.
Well, and
I love it, Glenn.
One thing I'll just add to that, don't be afraid to bring on a partner. So when I started, it was just me. And it's lonely and you doubt yourself and you get knocked down. And Glenn and I mean, every week Glenn's talking to me about it's that mental thing of having a partner to say, Lori, no, this is how our mindset should be. Or maybe I say that back to Glenn, or I really found bringing on a partner at the beginning, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm giving up 50% of my business. But we 5x'd our business when we put our minds together. And then it's not as lonely of an experience. I think it's more fun when you want to bring Glenn and I, like you said, we're yin and yang. I mean, we're a lot alike, but we're a lot different. And so that being different, you don't want somebody that's just like you. You want somebody that is different and is going to have a different perspective. And so I think that's huge. I honestly wish part of it is you just got to do it too. I wish, knowing what I know now, I'm 45 years old. I wish I would have done it at 30 years old, but I didn't have anyone. I wasn't listening to shows like this. So I think just doing it as a side hustle. And then when you get to that point, not being afraid to bring on a partner if you need to, is a good idea.
That's great advice. And for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, of course, put together what both Glenn and Lori said. They're in a nice, neat package. It's really great advice. They've been through it themselves. They have over 30 years of combined experience in medical marketing and sales. And their company, the Medical Marketing Whiz, really has grown to one of the most sought after medical marketing agencies in the United States. And the way they do it is they really provide a systematic, proven marketing approach. And they really do a great job for their clients. It's really remarkable. Now, Glenn, I'm going to say goodbye to you first. I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time for us, but Glenn, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. Congratulations on being either the yin or the yang of the yin yang whiz team. So thanks for being on the show, Glenn.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Super awesome. Of course, Lori, your engineering background just comes to the forefront. You've done such a remarkable job, I think, in understanding the needs of the client, and then working with Glenn to put together this complete package, this system for your clients. And that's one of the things they rave about, because they just can't believe once they follow your system and your marketing program, what happens to their practice. And the success stories are unbelievable. Their practices are, they're adding additional rooms and they're adding additional buildings and they need more offices and, more people. And it's just incredible what you've been able to do. So Lori, thank you so much for coming on the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thanks, Andy. It was super fun. I love your energy.